but the Los Angeles Lakers are in the mix.
Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves. Those are the guys that I think there's a huge market for. DAngelo Russell made a lot of money last year, is looking for a big contract here.
Recently, I've been feeling a little sick. Now, I don't know what's up with me. There's been a dramatic decrease in my energy. I haven't been posting as much on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I don't know if you guys noticed. So I decided to pay a visit to a doctor. And the doctor then told me,
Mike, tell me, how have you been sleeping?
I told him I've been sleeping terribly. And then he looked at my channel and noticed something. He said,
Mike, when was the last time you made a video on the Los Angeles Lakers?
And then we realized it's been over a month since I last made a video on the Los Angeles Lakers, and we have a huge update for you guys here today. So before we get to the content, we are 2 days away from NBA free agency, baby. And the moment free agency starts, we're giving away $1,000 split between 5 subscribers that turn on our notifications on this channel. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. The NFL and NBA season are officially over, and I need something to hold me over until at least the NFL season comes back. So I've been playing prize picks for the WNBA and the MLB, and I've been fairly successful. It's a good way to get some extra action on games that I wouldn't really watch otherwise. I post my picks onto my Instagram story daily, and I've been hitting on a decent amount of them. And right now, when you use my promo code microphone, they'll double your deposit up to $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Los Angeles Lakers offseason was filled with a lot of drama from the get-go. The moment their season concluded, LeBron James said that he was contemplating retirement.
I got a lot to think about, to be honest. And just for me personally, going forward with the game of basketball, got a lot to think about.
Now, we debunked that almost immediately because, well, LeBron James has been saying to a nauseating degree how much he wishes to play with his son, Bronny James.
What do you need to do in your career before you can hang it up?
I need to be on the floor with my boy. I gotta be on the floor with Bronny.
Now, one of my favorite things that occurs the moment the NBA draft concludes, especially the 2023 NBA draft, which, by the way, hit record-setting numbers in terms of viewership as a result of Victor Wembanyama, because he is the greatest NBA prospect that we have ever seen since LeBron James. But next year, we already know what type of draft it's going to be. It's going to be a completely different type of draft with different narratives and storylines that we're already covering right now. And that's the fact that LeBron James said repeatedly that whatever team selects his son, Bronny James, will also get LeBron James, which I'm very interested in seeing how that's going to shake out. LeBron also mentioned that there's a chance that Bronny might not want to play with his dad, which I understand. So currently, as it stands in this way too early mock draft from ESPN and SportsCenter, and bear in mind this is a mock draft, the Atlanta Hawks are set to take Bronny James with the 17th overall pick in the NBA draft. The crazy part about this is LeBron took this mock draft by ESPN, posted it onto his story, and quite literally said, well, ATL shoddy, the James gang will be pulling up, with obviously a bunch of laughing emojis. I think this is a very realistic spot for Bronny, by the way. I think it makes sense. And the crazy part is Trae Young quite literally replied to this saying, talk soon. So we'll keep an eye out on that because I'm sure there's a lot of teams that might draft Bronny just for the sake of having LeBron for a year. That aside, there's one thing for sure. Los Angeles Lakers get LeBron James for one more season. And originally, our hypothesis was that LeBron James was contemplating retirement as a means of pressuring the front office of the Los Angeles Lakers, potentially pursue a big star to team up with himself and Anthony Davis. LeBron James looked at Anthony Davis and realized, hey, this guy can't carry the load in addition to me, and he can't pick up my slack, so we might need another star like, I don't know, Kyrie Irving. But here's the problem. If the Los Angeles Lakers pursue Kyrie Irving is going to want a max contract, obviously, despite him not having much of a market outside of the Dallas Mavericks. So this would handicap the Los Angeles Lakers significantly. They'd be able to keep Austin Reeves, but you can say goodbye to DAngelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Mo Bamba, Malik Beasley, and in place of those players, you'll get, I don't know, Jabari Parker, Stanley Johnson. You could bring Dwight Howard back from Taiwan. LeBron, those types of players. And given the fact that the Phoenix Suns are already opting for that option, which by the way, we really need to get you an update on that because it's looking very interesting over in Phoenix. It clearly isn't the way that I believe basketball teams should be built. And given the fact that the Los Angeles Lakers attempted to do this 2 years ago when they quite literally gutted out all of their depth and traded Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and their first round draft pick, which was very valuable by the way, to the Washington Wizards for Russell Westbrook, and then had Russell Westbrook on a super maximum contract with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on max contracts, we could all agree that that was a huge failure. And no, it's nothing to do with Russell Westbrook. It's just the Lakers had a combination of two things that just didn't work out for them. One was the fact that the trio of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook just never worked from the very beginning. Frank Vogel couldn't make it work. Darvin Ham tried to make it work. He couldn't make it work either. There were good games for Russell Westbrook, don't get me wrong, but the spacing was messed up because Russ isn't that great of a three-point shooter. And then on top of that, since there was so much money allocated to a big three that doesn't work, you had a really, really terrible bench. And that's the reason why it didn't work, and that's why Russ had some more success with the Clippers. You can't compare Russell Westbrook on a supermax contract to Russell Westbrook on a veteran minimum contract on a very deep team. So Rob Pelinka clearly had this in his mind because very shortly during his exit interview, Rob Pelinka showed his hand and he said what the Lakers planned on doing.
Our intentions are to keep our core of young guys together, and I think we saw incredible growth and achievement by, Rui, Austin. I could go down the list, Vando, D'Lo. We have a lot of great young players. And we want to do our best to fit the puzzle together.
Now, here's where it gets so interesting. There's a huge question about what the Lakers want to do with DAngelo Russell. Look, guys, you know me. When it comes to my analysis, I like to think I'm fairly unbiased, especially in my take on DAngelo Russell. So I have nothing but appreciation for D'Lo when we traded for him. I mean, what Rob Pelinka did during the trade deadline as a Laker fan was nothing short of wizardry. You took a team that barely worked together, that didn't necessarily make sense playing together. You traded away Damian Jones, Juan Toscano-Anderson, Patrick Beverley, Thomas Bryant, Kendrick Nunn, and Russell Westbrook. And in return, you got back DAngelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Bo Bamba, and Rui Hachimura. This completely changed the Los Angeles Lakers season. Just from the standpoint of DAngelo Russell being able to space out the floor, this was fantastic. The Lakers were able to make it to the Western Conference Finals, and this is despite this unit having about 2 to 3 months with one another. And bear in mind, a large portion of those months were games where LeBron James was injured. So a lot of the reason why the Lakers got to the playoffs to begin with was the fact that this team was able to pick up the slack when LeBron James was injured. In my opinion, that warrants at least a full off season with one another to get familiar with each other, because if they were able to make it to the Western Conference Finals with that little familiarity with one another, I think it's definitely worth continuing forward. Despite this, DAngelo Russell had a horrific Western Conference Finals. I mean, he was memed for this mercilessly. A lot of Laker fans were saying
DAngelo Russell was the reason why we lost to the Denver Nuggets.
He had a remarkable first round versus the Grizzlies, but against the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets, not so much. Russell went from averaging 17 points per game and hitting 41% of his threes to averaging 11.5 points per game and 3.9 assists per game while making 42% of all of his field goals. You couple that with the fact that there was drama about potentially bringing DAngelo Russell off of the bench in the playoffs, and you get a recipe for the Lakers planning on potentially moving on from him. They tried to explore a sign and trade with Kyrie Irving, but the Mavericks weren't interested in that. They also tried to explore a sign and trade with Fred VanVleet, and well, jury's out on that as well. But we got a huge update on what the Los Angeles Lakers free agency plan is, and it's coming from a very reputable source in Joe Von Buha of The Athletic. So according to this article, Lakers Vice President of Basketball Operations and General Manager Rob Pelinka echoed on Tuesday the Lakers' plan for free agency.
Yeah, I think, we're at the doorstep of free agency, and we've been pretty clear since our last game with the success of making it to the Western Conference Finals. We want to try our hardest to keep this core of guys together and also improve around the edges and on the margins to not only get back to where we were last year, but hopefully take the next step, get into the NBA Finals.
The article even says it here, what we were saying earlier. For the first time in the LeBron James Anthony Davis era, the Lakers are expected to prioritize continuity and chemistry over chasing flashier upgrades this offseason. Now that sounds like a great plan in my opinion, but that could always change based on the Lakers' track record and how the rest of free agency plays out. But all indications, both publicly and privately, point to the organization planning to re-sign restricted free agents Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura and unrestricted free agent DAngelo Russell, as The Athletic previously reported. The Lakers are also expected to try to retain unrestricted free agent Dennis Schroeder and Lonnie Walker IV, though they don't have full bird rights on either. The Lakers will continue to operate under the assumption that LeBron James will be back next season, even though there has been no formal announcement since his final press conference in May, when he said that there was a lot to think about regarding his future. This is what gives me a lot of optimism here. Rob Pelinka said that the franchise believes in the proof of concept of the roster despite the group being together for less than 2 months. That stretch included James, Davis, and Russell each missing chunks of the regular season. The Lakers finished the season 18-6, including the regular season play-in tournament and first 2 rounds of the playoffs, en route to their first conference finals berth since 2020. I've said this many times in previous uploads, man. This season reminded me a lot of the Lakers 2007 to 2008 season, when they were in a very similar position. They had a bunch of players around the late great Kobe Bryant that didn't make them competitive at all whatsoever, to the point where Kobe Bryant was actually flirting with teams in the offseason prior. And then out of nowhere, somehow, some way, through some stroke of wizardry, they were able to trade for Pau Gasol. And upon receiving Pau Gasol came in, learned the triangle offense really quickly, which is very complicated to learn, especially in the middle of the season. And the Lakers were able to make it all the way to the NBA Finals, although they would lose to the Boston Celtics. This is a very similar result. It's very obvious that this team works well together. An 18-6 record, including the regular season play-in tournament and the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, is very impressive. And I don't think you could upgrade even more than that. All you need is time together. We saw defensively what we were able to do to finish the season out. Pelinka said, "I think defense and rebounding wins championships, and that's the core of Darvin's system and our identity. We want to lean into that. I think if there are ways that we can improve the roster, of course we're going to do that. Depending on the way the Lakers choose to build out their roster, it will either have the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is $12.4 million, and the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is about $5 million, or the room exception projected to be about $7.7 million that will be available. They can use that to re-sign their own players who do not have bird rights, like Dennis Schroeder and or Lonnie Walker, or sign a player or players that fills another position or need. They could also acquire a player in a sign and trade, though that would force them to operate with a hard cap of about $7 million over the luxury tax line. We're going to try our best to match players with players that coach wants to coach and that work in his system. And I think that's guys that play tough-minded basketball, that play defense and play the game the right way and hold themselves accountable but fit within a team structure, that don't put themselves first but put other guys first. And that's got to be our identity, and it will be our identity. And I think when rosters really work is when they reflect the personality of the head coach. And those are the archetypes and the things that we are for on July 1st. I've said this before, man. The Los Angeles Lakers lost to a team that has been together, at least their core has been together, for at the very minimum, you could say, since Michael Porter Jr. got drafted, since 2018. This team has been together for a very long time, making it into the playoffs, getting knocked out in the playoffs, suffering heartbreak, suffering through injuries. And finally, by the time the Denver Nuggets faced off against the Los Angeles Lakers, they were running circles around them. They had their 2-time MVP in Nikola Jokic. They had the perfect complementary player to him in Jamal Murray. They had a literal microwave on the wing that has tremendous all-star potential in Michael Porter Jr. And that's before I get to their role players, man, like Bruce Brown, for instance, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green. So I think that's the blueprint to follow if you want to win a championship at this point. The idea of just constructing a team out of nowhere in free agency, in my opinion, is relatively outdated and has already failed us in the past. And I think the Lakers are making the right decision here. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.